Hello, everyone. I am Professor Martin, a medical researcher who has spent decades studying some of the most dangerous infectious diseases on Earth. And today we are going to talk about one of the deadliest viruses known to humankind, a virus so feared, so devastating, that even the mention of its name sends chills down the spine. That virus is Ebola. But before you click away thinking you already know the basics, I promise you this. What I'm about to share will shock you, move you, and maybe even change the way you see this disease forever. Because Ebola is not just a virus, it's a mirror that reveals how fragile our societies can be when fear and biology collide. The origins, a mysterious killer from the forest. Let's rewind back to 1976. Deep in the rainforests of Central Africa, in a small village near the Ebola River in what is now the Democratic Republic of Congo, strange cases began to emerge. Patients suffered high fever, uncontrollable bleeding, and death followed within days. It was horrifying. Doctors and nurses tried to help, but even they fell victim. By the time the outbreak ended, hundreds had died, and the world had just met a new killer, the Ebola virus. From then on, sporadic outbreaks appeared across Central and West Africa, each leaving behind devastation and unanswered questions. Why Ebola is so terrifying? Unlike many other viruses, Ebola doesn't spread silently. It comes with brutal symptoms: fever, vomiting, diarrhea, rash, and in severe cases, internal and external bleeding. Patients can deteriorate in a matter of days. And then comes the most chilling fact. Ebola's fatality rate has reached up to 90% in some outbreaks. Imagine that. 9 out of 10 people infected could die. It's like a biological wildfire. When Ebola strikes, fear spreads even faster than the virus itself. The myths and panic. In many communities, fear led to myths. Some believed Ebola was caused by witchcraft or curses. Others thought it was punishment from the gods. These myths fueled stigma. Families abandoned sick members. Villagers attacked health workers, believing they were spreading the disease. People hid their sick relatives instead of seeking medical help. And when fear replaces facts, the virus always wins. How Ebola really spreads. So let's clear this up once and for all. Ebola is not airborne like the flu or COVID-19. You cannot catch Ebola from simply talking to someone or sharing the same air. The virus spreads through direct contact with blood or body fluids of an infected person, contaminated surfaces like bedding or clothing, handling wild animals like bats, monkeys, or apes that carry the virus. This is why health workers are at extremely high risk. One tiny mistake in protective gear can mean infection. The nightmare of West Africa, 2014 to 2016. The largest Ebola outbreak in history struck West Africa in 2014. It started with a single child in Guinea, but soon spread across borders in Liberia and Sierra Leone. Cities became war zones against an invisible enemy. Hospitals overflowed. Families were shattered, entire villages wiped out. Over 11,000 people died in just 2 years. It was a humanitarian catastrophe that showed the world just how unprepared we were. Even developed countries felt the shockwaves. Cases reached Europe and the United States, sparking global panic. News outlets called it the apocalypse virus. Science fights back. Treatments and vaccines. But here's the turning point. Scientists and doctors did not give up. Out of tragedy came innovation. For the first time, experimental treatments were tested during outbreaks. Antibody cocktails, antiviral drugs, and eventually vaccines. In 2019, the world saw a breakthrough. The RVSV-ZBOV vaccine, proven to protect against Ebola. It was rolled out during outbreaks in the Democratic Republic of Congo, saving thousands of lives. What was once a hopeless death sentence is now a battle humanity can actually fight. Real stories, courage, and survival. Behind the statistics are real people. I remember meeting a nurse who survived Ebola. She told me about the horror of watching colleagues die, of holding patients' hands knowing she might be next. But she survived. And instead of giving up, she returned to the treatment center to care for others because she said, if I survived, maybe I can give them hope too. These stories remind us Ebola is not just about death, it's also about resilience, courage, and the human spirit refusing to surrender. The ongoing challenges. But let's be honest, Ebola has not gone away. Outbreaks still flare up in parts of Africa, and there are challenges that make controlling Ebola difficult. Poverty and weak health systems. Fear and stigma that keep people from seeking treatment. Limited access to vaccines and therapies in rural areas. And while the virus is not airborne, a single case can still spark terror in communities. Prevention is the key. The best way to stop Ebola is to prevent it in the first place. That means avoiding contact with wild animals that may carry the virus, using protective equipment in healthcare settings, rapid testing and isolation of suspected cases, vaccination in high-risk areas. When communities work together with health authorities, outbreaks can be stopped. In fact, recent flare-ups were contained in just weeks thanks to faster response and vaccination. The hidden enemy, fear itself. Ebola is not just a biological enemy, it's also a psychological one. Fear destroys trust. Fear divides families and communities. Fear makes people hide instead of seeking help. But when knowledge replaces fear, when science replaces myth, Ebola loses its power. A future of hope. Will Ebola ever disappear completely? Maybe not soon, but thanks to science, vaccines, and global cooperation, humanity is stronger than ever in this fight. Every outbreak teaches us lessons. Every survivor proves that Ebola is not invincible. Final message: humanity can fight back. So here's my message to you. Ebola is real, it is deadly, but it is not unstoppable. With knowledge, compassion, and science, we can defeat even the most terrifying of viruses. Share this truth, because fear spreads faster than any virus, but so does hope. Thank you for listening. I am Professor Martin, and I'll see you again in our next deep dive into the world of infectious diseases.
Don't forget to subscribe to our channel, share your thoughts, and leave your questions in the comments. We love hearing from you.